The film begins with a boy named Ronnie being asked to tell about his hero in class. He comes up to the blackboard and writes the word Hachiko in large letters and says that it was his grandfather's dog. Classmates begin to laugh at the fact that Ronnie chose the dog Hachiko as a hero. At this moment, the boy, despite the scoffers, begins the story. It is not known exactly where Hachiko came from, but we are shown how this little puppy is being prepared for shipment from Shanghai to an unknown recipient. The road is long and Hachiko even gets to fly by plane. When Hachiko was being transported at the railway station, the courier accidentally dropped the carriage with the dog and it opened. The dog began to walk in fear among a huge crowd of people and suddenly saw Uncle Ronnie Parker Wilson. Parker immediately tries to give the puppy to someone and looks for its owner at the station, but attempts are unsuccessful. Then he takes the puppy to his home and hides it in a room in secret from his wife Kate. However, after a short time, the puppy gets out of the room where he scares the teacher's wife out of surprise. She becomes categorically opposed to the puppy staying at their house, and Parker has to leave him in the barn for the night, and the next day go hang leaflets about finding the owner of the puppy. The shelter does not want to accept the puppy because it is completely overcrowded, and Parker has no choice but to take him to work with him. There we are, introduced to a good friend of the teacher Ken. He says that this is a special breed of dog Akita, and the keychain on his neck shows the number 8, which sounds like Hachi in Japanese. That's how the teacher called the puppy. In the next scene, we see that a storm starts near Parker's house, and the teacher runs to the barn to take Hachi home. In the room, Parker studies the features and history of the Akita breed on the internet and is about to leave, leaving the puppy alone. But he shows his fear of a thunderstorm, and the teacher stays with him to watch baseball. In the middle of the night, the professor's wife Kate wakes up and sees him sleeping on the couch in front of the TV, and Hachi sitting on his arms. The next morning, Parker plays with the puppy and teaches him to bring a ball, but Hachi does not give in to learning this game despite any requests. Kate Parker sees this, and at this moment, the phone rings with a request to sell the dog. Without thinking twice, she says that the puppy has already been taken away, letting us know that she has already accepted Hachi into her family. Some time passes, Hachi has already grown up. Parker goes to work, but the dog doesn't want to let him go. Instead, he digs a hole under the fence and runs after his master. The professor sitting on the train to work at the last moment sees Hachi at the station and gets out of the train. He asks the dog to go home, but he refuses and Parker has to take him home, thereby being late for work. The dog watches as the professor's wife takes care of the garden and they gradually get used to each other more and more. Hachi hears the whistle of a train approaching the city and jumping over the fence runs to the station to meet his master. At the station, Hachi sits right in front of the station doors and carefully looks at the people passing by in search of Parker. All the workstations that are familiar with the professor admire the fact that the dog came to meet his master. At home, the professor meets his daughter's fiancé, and they all fry steaks together and play in the garden. Parker, communicating with his friend Ken, understands that Akita does not bring the ball just like that. They are proud dogs, and will be able to bring the ball only if they want to please their owner very much. This breed cannot be bought. They are very loyal friends. The professor taught Hachi to accompany him to the station and meet him from it, and meanwhile, in the city, all the residents have already got used to the dog and often greet him and feed him. So day after day passes, and these traditions have never been violated, neither in winter nor in summer. One day, Hachi does not meet his master at the station. Parker finds him in the barn barking at a skunk, after which the two of them take a bath. The next day, Professor Andy's daughter tells everyone that she is pregnant and that Parker will soon become a grandfather. The station workers find the behavior of the dog strange to accompany and meet its owner every time, but Parker does not care about this. The next day, Hachi behaves unnaturally. He starts barking at the owner and does not want to let him go to work. Hachi feels that something is wrong with the professor, but this does not stop Parker and he goes to work. At this moment, Hachi goes to his shed and finds the very ball that the professor wanted to be brought to him. He grabs it and runs after the owner to the station, where he catches up with Parker and gives the ball away. The professor is insanely happy about this and does not play with the dog for long. Parker tells everyone he knows that Hachi brought him a ball for the first time, and for him this is a huge achievement in life. Nevertheless, the professor leaves for work. During the lecture, Parker suddenly becomes ill and falls dead, dropping the ball out of his hands. Evening comes, and when it's time to meet his master, Hachi is sitting in his place in front of the train station, but the long-awaited professor does not appear in any way. Closer tonight, Andy's husband drives up to the station and takes Hachi home. We are shown that the dog now sees the world in black and white and is sad for his master, and family members are grieving for the loss. Parker is buried, and Hachi again resorts to the train station to wait for the owner without losing hope. Parker's family moves to another place, taking Hachi with them, but one day when Andy's husband opens the door, the dog can't stand it and runs back to the train station, having walked a long way through the forest, railway tracks, and the city. On the way to the train station, Hachi runs into an old house, where he immediately runs away when he finds new people. He comes to his old place near the train station and continues to wait. But Andy and her husband come for him almost immediately, taking her home. Andy realizes that he can't keep Hachi in the yard by force, and lets him go with the words, "Hachi, we love you and we want you to stay with us. But if you have to go, we will understand that." The dog says goodbye to her by licking her hand and runs back to the train station. A few years pass, the story about the Hachi of a devoted friend becomes famous, and a journalist writes an article about the most devoted dog. A lot of people donate money for food and care for Hachi all over the world. Professor Ken's old friend arrives and talks to Hachi and the station staff. Ken wants to give money for food for Hachi, but the workers do not take them, saying that they do it conscientiously and not for money. In forgiveness, Ken wishes long years to Hachi and leaves. A few more years pass and the professor's widow returns to the city. We are shown the current life of Hachi, how the residents take care of him, feed him, and greet him. Kate sees Hachi after so many years and approaches him in tears. She is shocked that Hachi is still waiting for the professor and says that he is a good boy. She hugs him in tears and leaves after a while. In the next scene, we are shown Kate and the professor's grandson, how they are sitting in a room, and she tells him the story of how Hachi found Parker. At the end, we are shown how, on a cold and dark winter night, Hachi walks towards the train station with the last of his strength, where he sits down in his seat and falls asleep forever, remembering those moments when they spent time together with their owner, Parker. Hachi opens his eyes and sees the professor coming out of the train station, and after a long time, they finally meet after death. The film ends with Ronnie finishing the story about Hachi and all his classmates sitting in tears and applauding this touching story. After school, we are shown how Ronnie walks with his puppy named Heishi. In the credits, we were shown that the film was shot on the basis of a true story that happened in Japan, where Hachi waited for his master for 9 years and died in March 1934. Today, a bronze statue of Hachiko stands at the Shibuya railway station.